That aspect of the film reminded me a little bit of some of the sequences Breaking Bad. Remember some of those sequences in like Breaking Bad with like putting the tarantula in the jar, the kid who puts the tarantula in the jar, and like
The filler. That was the filler from Breaking Bad, and you're right, because 50% of this movie, if not more, is filler.
Mm-hmm.
It's cream on the pastry.
who doesn't love cream on their pastry, dude? Who doesn't love cream?
American, these United States.
I like cream. I like cream on my pastry. I like a donut. Hey, Danicus, we're gonna let people up at the end because we're gonna discuss the film first. That's the plan. Oh, well, he's up.
I pressed a button. Sorry, Danicus.
What was that, Seth? What was that?
Well, the plan was to just let people up who had wanted to have a Q&A at the end, but
Well, he's in here now, so
he's in here now, so it's
we'll
fine.
roll with it. So we're
roll
discussing
with
this
it.
movie Rubber from 2010 as part of our podcast that we were talking about with you yesterday, and it falls into the obscure film category. It's a movie about a rubber tire that goes through this sort of like adolescent phase in the first few minutes of the movie, where it's learning how to crush animals and crush beer bottles. Then it's learning how to crush, tarantulas, and then it's just skipping ahead to, post-pubescence, where he learns how to vibrate and the tire direct its vibrations at these objects and just makes them explode, whether they're organic or inorganic.
Actually, incorrect. This movie, Rubber, is about the movie industry and how they take advantage of an audience. Period.
True, because it does end in Hollywood.
Yeah, okay.
The tricycle, and he has
Oh, yeah.
many tires.
I got a question for Danicus. Danicus, do you appreciate your time being wasted?
I don't appreciate my time being wasted, but is this the same movie with Wings Hauser?
It is.
Yes.
Oh God, that's the murderous tire, right?
Yes, the murderous tire.
Oh my God.
None of us, by the way, this is the first one in this series. This is the very first movie that was selected purely based on a recommendation to Judy that none of us had seen. In every other episode, all the previous 14 episodes, we were discussing movies that at least one of us had seen.
Yes.
And sometimes more than one.
Yeah, and I took it on the recommendation of someone that I had just met, and I was telling him about our podcast. And he basically told me, there's this movie that has like a cult following, and the first time I saw it, I hated it. But then when I learned it had a cult following, I watched it again, and then I was annoyed that I kind of liked it. And so I was like, I want to see that film.
Also, it has the dude from UHF and The Boy Who Could Fly. He was the angry
which guy from UHF?
Is that, Brian, is it Roe? Brian, what is it, Bowie or something
David.
like that?
David. Wait, I wrote it down. David Bowie.
Yes, he's been in a billion things.
I believe Jack Plotnick is in that movie.
Yes.
He is in that movie.
He's a skinny guy.
And he has a great little monologue scene.
Steven Spinella was pretty good, that blonde guy. When he came out with that big monologue in the beginning, I thought it was kind of corny, but I liked him. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised his career isn't bigger, or maybe it is and he's Canadian. I don't know.
I liked all the actors in this film, to be perfectly honest.
Some of them were non-actors.
That was the problem with this movie. The acting was quite good, and it was distracting me from, there were so many things about this movie that were good, so many things about it that were good, but the movie itself wasn't good. Like, I don't know. It didn't work.
It was all Fellini 8.5, and I don't like Fellini.
It was better. It was not as good as Fellini.
All right.
The Italians, at least, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But the guy David Bowe, I just looked him up, and I recognize his face from all that stuff. Yeah, and he was in UHF and all. He's a character actor. I totally recognize him. He kind of looks like Clint. He looks a little like Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother. Okay, he's the guy who played the guy at the pool, right?
He was
the angry
motel
father.
owner.
The motel owner, right? Exactly. And they're asking him
He was
about.
a bad dad.
He's a bad dad. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
My goodness.
He wants the extra toppings on his
Yeah,
the
so
double
his son
toppings.
makes him eat crow.
So I feel personally that, okay, so you're probably going to take this wrong, and it is not me trolling, but I just have a feeling that I'm going to be cultured, more in-depth cultured in cinema thanks to you.
Well, that's our goal. Our goal is to bring these films to everybody, Danicus. That's to the.
So let me talk to the viewers here. Viewers, there is a thing known as the fourth wall. Now, the fourth wall, like in a stage play, is the side of the stage that the audience can see through. So the fourth wall is invisible, but it's known as the boundary or barrier between the world of the story, also known as the diegetic world, and the audience. What this film does is focuses on the fourth wall using French Wes Anderson imagery, then expands it as if they were getting drunk at a party and trying to make each other laugh with story beats of the movie. Some people appreciate that, but as Danikis just said, he doesn't like his time being wasted.
Okay, fair enough, Sean, and I agree with that assessment. But there are so many other problems with the movie besides that. Like you already mentioned that. That's an overarching problem. But what about the problem of like the central character, the sheriff or whatever, and all this? What is this whole thing about he's shooting them, but nothing's real. That is, I mean, I know that's another example of the fourth wall, but I don't even understand what it was trying to say. Like, there's a scene where he's like, guys, it's over now. It's over.
Because
you can
everybody
go
was
home.
supposed to be dead.
Because
after
all
he
the other
poisoned
guys were, exactly, because the audience was supposed to be dead, which, like, so that signaled to me that what they were trying to say in the narrative is that this guy is in on the action on a level that the other people are like more hypnotized than him, and they're just going through the motions, whereas he knows that this is what they do all the time. They're always doing this. Every time they play the movie, they go through the da-da-da, and like he knows it, but his other officers don't know it, and it's like they were in a trance and they had to be reminded, and he was like, come on, shoot me. It's not real. None of this is real. But then it becomes this whole big like to-do about, I don't know, I didn't understand that part. Then the other guy comes by and tries to get the guy to eat the poison again, the last remaining guy. But instead he gets bored. He gets bored and decides to eat the poison himself. And that shit just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like...
Yeah, but to get back to the scene you were saying before when the sheriff was trying to tell everybody, it's fake, it's not real. Oh yeah, prove it, shoot me. He shoots the sheriff is fine. But they can't stop because one person is still watching.
No, I
So
get that. But
they
then
have
there's
to keep on going. Well, that's what I'm saying about it being French. Like the fucking
yeah, but then what about that shit with there was a body bag with like a dead person in it, but we don't get to see it.
Right.
What was that shit?
They didn't have a budget for that. They didn't have the budget.
The thing is that, like any film, like at the beginning, it tells you to like chill out and suspend your disbelief. They tell you at the beginning of the film that nothing is going to mean anything in a ridiculous
they give you
sort of way.
They give you that stupid cop out.
He didn't say that. He said there's no reason.
Right.
Not that it doesn't mean anything. He
There's
said
no reason that
no
anything
reason.
happens.
Right.
There's no reason.
Right.
And by the way, my favorite example of no reason, my absolute favorite was there's a guy in The Pianist, and he plays piano beautifully, and they're trying to hunt him. Wow, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. When I saw
I
that,
fucking love that. That was great. It was like, yeah, no, he was a Jew, and that was a Holocaust movie, and he was being hunted because the Nazis were trying to kill him because they're
Yeah,
evil.
why did this piano player had to live like a dog? No
Yeah,
reason. Yeah.
no reason. That was
But
the
why?
best
Why
one.
did a total stranger kill JFK? No reason.
No
But
reason.
it progressively gets more stupid. And at that point, you pretty much have the whole
No.
joke of the movie right there.
No, it's
But
not. It's not stupid. It's meaningless. It's meaningless.
it's
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
no reason.
Dada-esque. Okay,
Yeah.
it's
No, Sean,
Dada-esque.
That's what
Sean's
I'm
on
saying.
point
French.
with it.
That's what I'm saying. French. I don't. The French. Ah, I don't know.
I
Well, I
love
think
it.
the point of it would be because God's not fair and we got to deal with it. Life's not fair. We got to suck it up. You
Or
know,
or the movie industry isn't fair, and we gotta suck it up. Or the law enforcement isn't fair. That's the thing. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's like fucking Beckett.
or
I'll
the
tell you this.
politicians.
Here's something I wrote down on my third page of notes watching this movie. It is just because it's vapid doesn't make it deep. Wait, hold on.
Dude, no one thought
Brett,
it was
no,
deep except you.
no. Brett Easton Ellis, who wrote Less Than Zero and American Psycho, he can do vapid. These French people cannot do vapid. They're. Oh, also, I looked up the Russian formalists. Who are they? I'll tell you. They came up with terms like fabula and suje. Fabula is the actual narrative series of events of the story. The suje is how you tell the story, like in a flashback, in a dream, linear, non-linear, things like that. So what they did is that they used more suje than fabula. Period.
I had a threesome with Sujay and Fabula once. And Fabula was so much better.
Mock me if you will. Mock me. I looked it up.
Point is well taken.
Thank you.
But that's the thing. I mean, I'm going to go back to my whole theory of the dying empire. Dying empires make shitty art.
I don't think this is shitty
And
art, dude. I really don't think it's shitty art. I think it's.
Can I?
I think.
Go ahead.
okay, all right. Let me rephrase that. Dying empires make incoherent statements about themselves, and this movie is a reflection of the incoherence of the culture that came out of. And it had a lot of beauty in it, and it had a lot of cool things about it. That's the thing about. Listen, for a movie to be great, the script has to be great. Okay, everything else about this movie had elements of greatness. Everything but the script. Like the shots were cool. The concept of a killer tire is kind of cool
The
and
music
freaking
was
hilarious.
amazing.
The music was
I
great, and the director is a composer. The director is a composer.
can tell the music was
Yeah.
on point every
Yes.
frame.
The shots were nice. The feeling, the vibe was. There was some cool ass vibes in this movie. I would I would legit watch it again with somebody. But I will always and the acting was phenomenal.
It was. That's Steven
it,
Spinella. I'm really impressed.
yes, that dry, so all this kind of dry, weird humor was great. But the story just doesn't work at all, and that's how I am. I mean, that's going to be like endlessly frustrating for me when I don't care how dumb the story is, but it has to make sense.
Well,
And
what
this
was
one
I
Yeah,
going to
that's
just
what I'm saying.
say?
If
Yeah.
you're gonna make a world, stick to it. And Judy, do you have something? Did I
No, I was
interrupt
going to
Judy?
say, what does it say if it's a French movie with American-speaking characters? Because
It means nobody in France wanted to make it. And it's like the French version of what they think the United States is.
Well, I
It's
think
like
it's
what
a
the
knock
French think.
on the States.
Yeah, that's what I really think. It's the French vision of what they think the United States is. And let me just say one thing: that fucking tire, how they did that shit was amazing. I didn't look it up, but I have my own theory because that tire really did move completely on its own. They did have a lot of stuff where they focused on the tire and somebody off cameras like moving it. They had a lot of that stuff, but they did have wide shots where the tire was just rolling, not down a hill, rolling, stopped, started rolling again. And I'm like, wait, what? I even rewound it a couple times. Like, how did they do that? And I rewound it. All these things, even it went up a step once.
It wobbles too, like it's gonna fall over, and it
I
does.
think they had I think they had a ball bearing mower in it because you can't see the whole tire. The tire isn't shallow. They put something in it so it doesn't look too deep. So I think they put a ball bearing motor in there that must have been heavy to weigh down the whole tire, and then they just used a remote control.
I think that's
Because
probably the best guess. It was like some
that's what
kind of
they
a
had to
remote
do.
control.
I think that's exactly
Yeah,
what
because
it.
it was
I think
amazing.
that's exactly what it was. It's a mono. It's a mono wheel. It's remote control mono wheel. I've
Okay,
seen
there's
them.
a
I've
name
seen
for it.
them before. Yeah, it's not a hard contraption to build. They can build one for under $100 in the shop, and it can have a stabilizer in it where it won't fall on its side because there's a stabilizer in it that keeps it pretty
Perfect.
much. Yeah, it's a what you call it. It's like how gyroscopes work. So it's the same concept. So it has a gyroscope on it, kind of like how segways work, where the segway won't fall, it stabilizes, it keeps perfectly
Right.
balanced.
Oh, there you go. It's like a Segway.
Now I
That's what I'm
want.
Yeah.
saying.
Now I want to remake this movie.
I'm just
I want
saying
to.
it was a
I want to
cool. That would
remake
be a
it.
cool toy to have. I would want a remote control tire,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think it's.
And I did think it was cool how they did make the tire into a character because the tire was trying to gain its um, psychic abilities and stuff, and you saw that progression. I thought it was kind of cool that they made it a tire, which is why I thought it was French. If it was an American movie, the tire would have just been a weapon, not its own character.
Not necessarily, because the tire is a plot device. And the plot device, if we're going into this, right? The plot device is really Hollywood saying that it's dying, and it doesn't have a leg to stand on, but it's on its last.
I mean, yeah, sure. But a character and a plot device, I could see it's a character and a plot device. I
Yeah.
could
Well,
I could I could see your point.
yeah, I do like that idea, especially the whole slam of at the end. He shows up. He's not even a tire anymore. He's a freaking tricycle.
Yeah, he's a
And
tricycle.
he's
I
got
was
like
looking at that
20
too.
tires behind him. Like, I'm just going to keep
Hollywood.
making more. Like, at the end, he's like, I'm just going to make more. Like, there's just going to be 20 more.
Can somebody
movies.
explain why he turned how or why he turned into a tricycle?
I
Well,
think
he
it's
got shot.
Because he died.
He's got
Because
telekinetic powers, so he
So
just
they
jumped
killed him.
bodies.
They
Yeah.
yeah, with a
killed
shotgun,
him,
he
but then he
shotgun.
got reincarnated into a tricycle.
Yes, and the guy
Yeah,
who was in the original audience, the
spectator,
last
wing
man
Yeah,
cap.
he gets
standing.
killed.
I would say the last man standing, but that would be ironic because he's in a wheelchair. He says it's not over yet.
Who made this movie?
Oh yeah.
The
Like,
French.
it's a French. Okay, so how about this? If we were to say remake this movie American style, why don't we say that this is the fucking prequel to Maximum Overdrive?
Oh, that's funny. With
it's
Emilio Estevez.
it's
Think
definitely
think about
And
that. It
cocaine Stephen
starts with
King.
the wheel and turns into a truck.
I want more cocaine Stephen King. Bring back me the
I,
cocaine, Stephen King. I want that one back.
I think that this movie, if you see okay, so there's a French film called The Red Balloon,
Oh, no, yeah,
which is a classic.
listen. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to actually say that earlier. Because it's one of my fucking favorite movies. I love the
No,
fucking
it's a
Red Balloon.
brilliant movie, and
Yes, it is.
everyone should see the Red Balloon. It's amazing.
Listen,
Now,
my mother introduced me to the Red Balloon when I was a little boy, and it made me fucking cry as a little boy. And even as an adult, a grown ass man in his late 30s still cries to that movie because, yes, Seth, it's fucking brilliantly made, it's brilliantly written and acted, and the fucking balloon is the star and the plot device, not the little boy.
and
The fucking red balloon.
you'll remember at the end of the Red Balloon,
Yeah.
the Red Balloon summons all the other balloons,
Yes.
and there's a whole big cloud
Yes.
of balloons.
Yes.
That's this
Well, she did.
movie.
She didn't summon,
They
but
stole it
her
from the Red
death.
Balloon.
Yeah, but she didn't summon the other balloons. Her
Her death,
death
her
is
And they
death.
just
what
roll on Hollywood in
awakened
the end,
them.
which I thought.
Yeah, yeah, and they all gather together, like the balloons. All like it was like an instinctive thing, almost like they awoken, right? They awakened. Excuse me, awakened to the death of one of their own. It's kind of like how crows are. You fuck with one crow, and then you get a murder of crows that come to tear your fucking face apart, right?
Or
And
at
to
the very
protect you.
least, or at the very least, they'll remind other crows for like years to come when they
Yes,
see
that.
your face that
Yes,
you're dangerous and stay away from this psycho,
yes.
which is
So
pretty amazing. Yeah,
yes, so
the red balloon.
all these balloons came together. You saw how some of the balloons that were already owned by other children decided, no, I'm going, bye. And then they all zip out of them and they all come to hover and protect this one little kid and they all gather together and then they fucking fly him up like it's a scene out of Up. You know?
So yeah, so it's a cross between that, and then it's a cross between movies like Christine or like Ben the Rat, where like in Willard there's Willard and his army of rats, and then they decide that Willard's going to kill. Willard's like, oh, I want the girl. I don't want to be friends with rats anymore,
What,
and I want
what,
to.
let me ask you a question, Seth, since you brought Ben up. Why is it whenever someone mentions Ben, they go into Willard, but they always tend to forget Food of the Gods 1 and 2?
Because well, right, but the reason is because Food of the Gods 1 and 2, they're giant rats, right? And Willard is specifically the prequel to Ben. It's not even a prequel. Ben is the sequel to Willard. Like they even mention Willard in Ben, that he trained the army of rats, and Ben is in Willard. He's like the wild rat that Socrates, the other rat, talks to, and then Socrates gets killed, and at the end, Ben. I think I think the last line in Willard is like, "I tried really hard, Ben," or something like that before they kill him. Anyway, but yeah, it's like there's a pack of rats at the end of it, and they're heading toward New York in Ben, and they're a bigger army than they were in Willard. So there's that, and there's also like
I had
it's like
Willard
what
on DVD.
it's also like if you watch our first one, if you watch Orca, it's like the fin in Orca, the fake fin in Orca, the different ways they try and shoot it, or the fake shark in Jaws, or uh, sometimes you just edit an object and it becomes a character if you edit it the right way, and that was the case with this. I also want to say that the French who made the red balloon, um, they look at things differently. Like the fact that it got
They
good
do.
reviews at
They like
Cannes.
see life in philosophies. They see life in philosophies.
Well, I don't. All I know is they see Jerry Lewis as a genius, not as a clown,
Well,
and
yeah,
they
because
see
he's
a
so.
deeper meaning in Jerry Lewis than anybody else in the world does.
Well,
It's kind of bizarre. So
well,
there's
also, well, no, because Jerry Lewis was also very visual, and they didn't, and there was no loss in translation.
Yeah, I think that the French also have a deeper appreciation for physical comedy and physical acting, and that's sort of that's fallen quite a bit out of favor, I think, in highbrow circles of critics, they don't really like. I don't know. I mean,
I
like
agree.
for example, think about it like this. Like, how is it that comedies don't ever get really nominated for Academy Awards?
Well, I'll tell you why. This is exactly why. There was a time when to do comedy well, guys like Danny Kaye would say, "Well, I can't just play a bad boxer. I have to learn how to box really well, so I can learn how to do it like a bad boxer." And that was like the thing. Like everybody had to be a Fred Astaire. This was like the Norman Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin tradition of physical comedy. And then one day, people were like, "No, you don't really have to be a physical genius to do slapstick. People will laugh just if someone else kicks them in the balls." And then you start getting into this sort of clumsy comedy. You also see it in dance. Like Fred Astaire would never sweat, and you never saw like Ginger Rogers' shoes filling up with blood. But now, if you watch a movie, I think it goes back to Flashdance, that you see them sweat and you see them suffer. You see it in like J-Lo videos. You see like everybody's got to see the work that went into it. The feeling of ease is no longer appreciated. So I think that's
That's
why.
actually a greater problem in our culture overall. Like we like to grind ourselves down rather than become masterful at things. And I see this like all the time. It's like people are actually putting on they're showing you they're practicing in front of you rather than performing. And that's what I see. Like, people are struggling to communicate. People are struggling to express themselves. They don't want to do the work. They want you to see them working, and people don't really want that. Doesn't really work that well. So I think, Seth, that's an interesting insight, because I think comedic writing has gotten more sophisticated. The writing's gotten better in some ways, but the actual performance of comedians, particularly physical comedians, I mean, we could count them on one hand, the ones that are any good, right? What do we have? We have Jim
Chris Farley,
Carrey. He's
Chris Farley,
Yeah, Chris Farley, Jim Carrey.
Chevy
But
Chase,
forget about that. Let's just talk about people who are alive. I think it's just Jim Carrey. I mean, who else is there at this
Chevy
point?
Chase.
Jackie Chan, technically.
Jackie Chan, sure. Jackie Chan. You said Chevy Chase.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, he's good.
Well, he
He's
did a
good.
lot of pratfalls early in
Yeah,
his career.
yeah, but he did stuff that just ground him down. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's
Yeah.
still like. What about the real poetic movers, like the guys that move, comedians that move really well, like the Charlie Chaplins and the Buster Keatons, and we don't have. I don't think we really have anyone on that
Yeah, you
level.
don't see that. You don't see like Hugh Jackman doing comedy. Like
No,
he's like, "No, I'll do musical theater and I'll do Wolverine, but I'm not gonna
it's
Yeah,
like."
like Vince Vaughn type stuff. I like Vince Vaughn a lot. I think he's hysterical. But yeah, the comedy went to Vince Vaughn. Remember Perfect Strangers, the sitcom on
Oh
ABC?
yes, I
Balky.
love that
That was
show.
all. Yeah, that was all physical comedy. They had an episode where they were doing roller skating.
Yep.
They took karate lessons once. You
There
know,
was an episode where they worked out too much and they were stiff for
yeah,
the
and there was
entire
the whole
episode,
bit was on
and they
them being
couldn't.
sore. Yeah, a lot of physical comedy there. But yeah, Abram, I see your point.
yeah.
And I guess that's what makes this movie fit so well, because it goes big. It doesn't go deep. I remember in improv class they say, "Do not go, don't go big. Don't spread out. Go deep." And I didn't know what that meant. I
Yeah,
raised
what
my
it
hand
means
and he
is what
explained
it means is start with a single concept for a story and milk it for everything that you can, rather than just jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't
Something
use tropes.
something that Seth was talking about that I wanted to touch up on, and that was uh, with Jerry Lewis. We forget about Peter Sellers and how Peter Sellers was very uh, slapstick to some extent as well. He was very visual, and he used his body whenever he was Inspector Clouseau and characters like that, where there was comedy behind it, because he was he's not a comedian, but he's a comedy actor, kind of like Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, he's on a whole other uber level. Peter.
We're talking about Peter
Sellers.
Yeah, forget
Peter
it.
Sellers. You could do a whole episode on Peter Sellers. He's like almost like a. I mean, there'd be no Sacha Baron Cohen without Peter Sellers. There'd be no. Robin Williams is deeply inspired
And
by
probably
Peter
Andy
Sellers.
Kaufman too, right?
I think so. Yeah,
I
Yeah, I would say yeah. Because a lot of costume changes, I would categorize that into physical. Anyway, I think that applies what we're talking about to rubber, is that it goes wide, it doesn't go deep, and it goes wider and wider and wider. You see the spectators, and you get an in-camera, like a monologue to camera. That was the first thing you see, and he's talking at you, but it's like 3 minutes. That's a long monologue, and it was all in one take. And then you see these people watching out in the distance, and then you see the movie. So you're thinking, okay, so it's not just a tire doing his thing. It's us, the audience, watching the movie that makes it big. It's like once removed, because now there's two realities. Then after the midpoint, the realities mix. Mm-hmm. Because then the sheriff knows about that Plotnik guy, and they interact, and then you find out that the whole thing was like, we need to kill the audience. But one guy doesn't eat the poison turkey. And so the movie has to keep on going on. And now at that point, you're in the fourth wall, because then the characters in the tire movie are talking with each other about the movie that they're in. Kind of like in Spaceballs. Remember that one time in Spaceballs where they want to figure out, where Rick Moranis needs to figure out where Lone Star went? And so they took a VHS copy of the movie, and they fast forwarded. That's exactly rubber. That one scene in Spaceballs is rubber. The whole time. I didn't like it, but it did take talented folks here that to make it a movie. It was like 85 minutes, which is pretty long.
Yeah, I was saying before you got here, Sean, before we started to record, I think, we were saying, I really think if it was 70 minutes or 65 minutes, it would be a perfect movie.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it starts to feel long. You start to go, well, how long is this joke? Like, what more can they do with this tire? And you know that they can do more with the tire, and they do, but you don't care anymore, because that's the thing, is that they're just going to do more stuff honestly, with the tire, and you know that.
It was 25 minutes of tire. It was a montage of tire rolling, doing this, killing things, just the tire, 25 minutes.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this,
I mean, listen.
Rocky IV is 33% montage. And you couldn't even tell watching it. It's still a masterpiece. But just like that, I just want to say, in those terms, it was like 20% tire.
I liked that. I liked the tire. I liked watching the tire roll around. It was, and I found that the movie wasn't boring, which was surprising. Like I didn't get bored during the movie, even though I got irritated with things that didn't make sense to me. But it was an entertaining film. Like it definitely had.
Don't you think part of that is also, though, it's like making a statement on like the Terminator and Cape Fear and the Unstoppable Force movies, where it's just like some guy or some object, or like Stephen King's Christine, or not Freddy, Michael Myers in Halloween, and Jason.
I like to think that this movie was actually making fun of vegans. And let me explain.
Okay.
So, I was listening to Naudi Aguilar earlier, the Fat of Functional Patterns, and he's talking to vegans, and he's saying that vegans are overlooking the fact that they think that animals are on some higher level than plants. Like animals want to live more than plants do, or animals care about life more than plants do. But plants have feelings. Plants desire life. Plants compete with each other for resources. Plants develop these sort of plants develop these sort of protective mechanisms so that they can preserve their lives. And rubber is a natural, natural plant matter. And these guys, these stupid vegan tire murderers who don't give a shit about plant life, they're just tossing the tires into the fire.
Oh God!
They're just tossing them into the fire
further.
without any regard for plant life and the value
made
of
it
the
a
life of a
comedy.
plant.
So
When it became a comedy.
here's the thing.
I cried during that scene.
I was thinking about the name of the name of the movie is Rubber, and more people died because of rubber than the Holocaust because of King Leopold II in the Congo harvesting rubber. Killed something like 12 million Africans.
Wow.
There you go, Seth. Add that on. There's a lot.
Yeah.
This movie goes
Yeah,
deep, man.
yeah,
And
but I
let me
also think they want
No,
you
it
to
goes
think
dry.
that. They also are laughing at you because you made episode 15 Rubber about a bunch of people talking about what rubber could be about, and they told you right at the beginning there's no reason.
No,
Like
there's every reason.
I
No
know, but there's
reason
a
and
joke.
every reason is the same thing. Because you know what else it's about? This movie is about the fact that rubber tires kill more people than just about anything in road accidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
People drive their car on these rubber things they're supposed to be safe. They're not safe. People die in car accidents all the time.
All the time.
And this is just a movie trying to show you those rubber things. Those things aren't safe. Those things are going to kill you.
Okay, I got a question
Actually,
for Judy.
you're wrong. Actually, it's a documentary. It's a documentary about the Firestone family and their fortune and how they made their fortune off of horrible rubber tires.
I like that too. Yeah. So this is this was a movie that was made to tell you a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense and for no reason. And we're here doing a podcast explaining to you why this movie, everything that happens in this movie is for every reason. Anything you can think of is a reason.
This rhyme reminds me of if you read Harold Guskin's book, How to Stop Acting, he defines character as whatever the actor does that is observed by the audience when the audience suspends its disbelief. So he was like, just do anything. They're gonna, if it's a good narrative, they'll put two and two together and they'll say, oh yeah, that's why. And he even told me in private once, I had an audition for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And he was like, oh yeah, I saw the first production of that when it came to Broadway. And at the first half intermission, everyone was like, what the hell are we here for? Like, this is, and by the end of it, people were leaving the theater going, well, if you don't get it, you're just too stupid. I mean, that was brilliant. And he was like, yeah, the only way to understand that play is if you're a Hungarian physicist who loves Shakespeare. That's the only person who can figure that out is the author. And Rubber has less of a through line than Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead does. We also should talk about that there's a Psycho tribute in this movie that's quite brilliant.
Oh, the shower?
The shower, yeah. When she's in a hotel, right? She's checked into a hotel. The girl is showering. The fourth wall characters, the audience, are watching, talking about her butt and her breasts, and the two heavyset guys who could never get with her in the first place are like saying like, dude, her butt's not all that. And she's in the shower like Janet Leigh, and then the tire rolls in, and you're like, oh no, is she going to get murdered by the tire now? And that while she's showering, but then they dupe you again because then she's driving, like Janet Leigh is driving to the Bates motel. Now she's driving away from the hotel, and the maid comes in, and we think, okay, like we haven't seen that she's driving away yet, so we assume the girl must be showering, and but no, the tire is showering, and the maid throws the tire out and goes, "You weirdos!" Because maids clean up an awful lot of crap. I mean, like people do nasty shit in hotel rooms. So I can imagine that someone probably threw a tire in they clean a lot. I mean, I knew a girl in Utah who cleaned. She was a part-time maid, and she told me what she used to clean out of motels and out of the
Oh God,
showers. And
you could probably
yeah,
make a movie out of that.
you can make a movie just out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
horror movie.
a horror movie. So that's it too. And then like
Wait, but
there's
Seth,
a lot of
remind me,
Jaws in this.
was the tire when it was in the shower? When it was showering, it was animated, right? It was moving, but then when the maid came, it was just like it played dead.
It plays dead, yeah.
It
And she
wasn't
throws it out.
animated when she grabbed it, right?
Yeah, no, it's not animated.
The more I hear about this movie, and the more that we keep talking about it, the more I feel that this movie is really making fun of Mystery Science Theater 3.
I never liked that show, not once for a second.
Me neither. I never understood why they played it so much.
I
Yeah,
love
people
it.
like
I
people
love
are
it.
in
Really?
That
love with that show.
that
Like they have
show
followers,
predicted the internet, man. That
they
show,
have
come on.
disciples.
That show is every geek and his friends
Yeah, and they
commenting
take it
on other
seriously.
people's footage.
That
Hello, what are we doing right
But
now?
yeah,
Like,
that MST3K stuff, I never for a second thought it was funny, and people would die on that hill every
it's
time.
brilliant. It's brilliant, man.
See,
And if you don't see the
see,
and if Sean, if you don't see the irony right now
of
of
course,
that fucking movie,
of
I mean of
course.
that show, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I know
That
it's a litmus test for
wait,
intelligence.
Can you guys remind me?
Evan has a
Can you guys
question.
remind me of the? Oh, hey Evan.
Evan wants to know if the French, do we think the French have a greater appreciation of the show Three's Company than the American audience? And my answer is they probably do, because the show completely changes after they get rid of Chrissy and then they get rid of the Ropers. It becomes a completely new show almost. And the French probably put a deeper meaning on that. And by the way, it was an English show first, Three's Company. That lasted only a couple seasons, and they took it and made it into Three's Company in America, and really ran with it. But that's another show that, like, what's his name? Ritter was a great physical comedian,
Yeah,
and
True.
Don Knotts was too. I mean,
And Ritter was quite a touching, dramatic performer as well.
he was. Yeah, Sling Blade.
he was the
Oh, he was
He
in
was
he
the
was
Sling
the
Sling
Blade.
Blade.
assistant. He was the preacher. He wasn't the assistant. He was the preacher in the Waltons, and they couldn't continue with him because he got the part of Jack Tripper. But Ralph Waite was actually a preacher in real life, so he worked with Ralph Waite, who played the dad on the Waltons, to get it down. Like, so yeah, he started as like a dramatic actor. I don't know where his education was. I want to say it was might have been Yale or Juilliard or something like that. I'm not
I
sure,
think
but
Three's Company
Look
like
look
sort
it
of
up.
ruined his like ability to become like a leading man film type of guy. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's doing quite well with the money off of that, but
well, he's dead, so he's not doing
no,
anything
he
with the money.
was. I'm saying he was doing probably fine,
I
but
think
No,
I think
in the 80s.
I
he
think
was in
I probably would have gotten mentally ill or sick or some like I would not have been able to survive doing Three's Company for that many seasons and
he was
dealing
in
with
They All Laughed too, which was a hard movie to do because Bogdanovich spent a year editing it to make his girlfriend, who got murdered. That's what Star 80 is about, by her boyfriend. She was a Playboy uh, model, a Playboy of the Year, and then she wanted to be an actress. She had this jealous boyfriend who kind of made her and pushed her, and then
She
she
left
got
him.
she left him, and she went back to him though, and he
No,
kind of like
they split up their stuff. They were no, they were never back together. they were just going to split up their stuff because they lived together at the time, and that's when he shot her in the face with a
Dorothy
shotgun.
Stratton,
So
yeah.
Peter Bogdanovich's girlfriend was murdered by her ex-boyfriend?
Dorothy
Yes,
Stratton, yes. And now Peter
shotgun to the
Bogdanovich is with
face.
her little sister.
Shotgun to, yeah, and then Bogdanovich got with the
There's
woman's
some
little sister.
there's something a little off about Peter Bogdanovich.
Yeah,
I think
he's
he
not.
spent way too,
Orson
I
Welles'
think
best friend.
he spent too much time with Orson Welles.
That might be
But also,
that
they had
might be his
nothing in
greatest
common enough.
legacy, though, is his time with Orson Welles
I agree.
It's
and
true.
and
But
the other
it's weird.
directors.
But it's like Bogdanovich was so much younger at the time. It was weird. But also back to John Ritter. He was in 2 Blake Edwards movies. Blake Edwards, he made a couple of movies in the 80s, and they both starred John Ritter. I forget, one was where he played a playboy, and I forget what the other one was. Yeah, but John Ritter was, and Blake Edwards, who used Peter Sellers. So yeah, I could see that as being similar.
Can someone explain to me what the
Wait.
fuck is the deal with Peter Bogdanovich and the goddamn kerchiefs around his?
He's jealous. He's got a bottleneck, buddy.
Wait,
He's
what?
Yeah, Peter
he
Bogdanovich
wears
Why?
Dickies.
is notorious for wearing a lot of freaking kerchiefs, not handkerchiefs, but scarves.
Oh, he wears
around his-
Scarves.
He wears
Yeah.
ascots and scarves.
ascots and scarves.
Because
and,
he created this sort of swinging '70s cool director character before anybody else did it. There'd be no Tarantino without Peter Bogdanovich. That was a character that Bogdanovich really relished in that the other guys were not doing.
yeah, but it was never good.
No, it was never convincing. Peter Bogdanovich just always looks like, you know how like you got ugly rock stars that are sexy because they just pull it
Yeah.
off? He's just like an ugly geek that thinks he's a rock star, but he can't pull off the rock star
Yeah, but
vibe at all.
dude, it doesn't
and it
work
just
for
looks
us.
weird.
It doesn't
But
work
he
for
pulls
us,
off
but
the
he pulled it
ugly
off
geek,
for the
though.
people in the '70s. There'd be no Wes Anderson without him. That whole
I don't know.
don't think so. I think Wes Anderson is on his own level of awesomeness that people like Peter Bogdanovich would hope to ever achieve.
dude, he's imitating what Bogdanovich did. If you look at previews for Bogdanovich movies, they're not about the movie. They're about, hey, we're on set with Peter Bogdanovich and he's making they all laughed. Hey, Peter, how's it going? He's the first guy they did that with.
Great, but you know what? That may be right, and he may have convinced all those people back then. But it doesn't age well. Like you look back at that stuff, and you're like, ugh, what is he doing? Like, why is he so effeminate and
But
weak?
Wes Anderson films do age very well. All of his characters, you can pluck them out of any type of decade, and they last to the test of time. It doesn't matter. They're weird and quirky on their own, and they stay weird and quirky. But you like
But that's
the
not
characters.
But I have a different problem with Wes Anderson. And listen, hear me out. I've watched his films. I've enjoyed them. I appreciate what he does. But I don't feel like what he does is make movies. When I watch a Wes Anderson film, I feel like I'm getting sucked into a video game. Like it doesn't feel like a movie. It's like something else.
Life Aquatic is not a good movie.
And congrats to him for creating like this new genre of art that's not a movie, but it's something else.
Did you guys like the Royal Tenenbaums?
I enjoyed it, but
Yeah,
I didn't
I'm in the
revisit.
Royal
Yeah, to a
Tenenbaums, so
degree.
I can't
that's
comment
different.
because I'm biased.
Royal
You're in it,
Tenenbaums
Seth?
is a
I'm in it,
masterpiece.
yeah.
Is
Oh,
a
that's
masterpiece.
right. Yeah.
Now I
But still,
definitely have to
Life
go back and
Aquatic
watch it.
wasn't good. Fantastic Mr. Fox wasn't good.
Sean, sorry, say
What?
that again.
Fantastic Mr. Fox and The Life Aquatic are bad movies.
Oh, I disagree.
Where's
I
your
disagree when it
movie,
comes to-
Sean? Where's
comes
your
to
movie?
when it comes to the
Darjeeling
Fantastic
Limited
Mr.
is a
Fox.
bad movie. Darjeeling Limited is a bad movie. Is a bad movie. Sorry. Oh shit.
What a
Dan,
way to
don't go mute.
what a
Aw.
way to bring
Sean,
Steve down.
your negativity is my favorite part of this podcast. I can always count on you to
Wait,
give
no. Let me explain. I
no.
He's going to
No,
explain.
let me
No,
explain.
no. Let me explain what I mean. Sean, you say a lot of the times you say the things that I think, but that I can't put into words. I can't say as well as you, so I just let you say it. So I agree with you. I
But
agree
then
with
the
you
other,
about a lot of it.
but then the other side of Sean, and why I call him the Baba Booey of this operation, is if Sean likes something, you'll notice through the shows, he'll justify it with anything. He'll just make stuff up. Like he's like in the what was the episode in the Leave It in Vegas or whatever that horrible movie was that he
What
made us all
happens
watch?
in Vegas?
What happens in Vegas? He's like, do you think that Kubrick's actors are realistic? Do you think they're performing? And I'm like, I think it's Abram goes, you can't compare this movie to a
I
Stanley
Yeah.
did,
Kubrick
I
movie.
did, and I'll do it again, and I'm right. But you didn't even let me explain.
Here we
It's
go.
Go
okay.
ahead,
Here we
Sean.
go.
Wait. Go ahead, Sean.
Come on,
Explain.
Sean.
Okay. Okay. I love The Predator, Die Hard, and The Hunt for Red October. All excellent
Yeah.
films. The
Predator's
13th
not an excellent
Warrior.
film.
I'm talking. 13th Warrior, great movies, all directed by John McTiernan. But John McTiernan also made Basic, horrible, Thomas Crown Affair, horrible, Rollerball, horrible, really bad movies too, and I could see that. He's still a great filmmaker, Die Hard with a Vengeance, I like that. But at the same time, I see his films and I know they're bad when they're bad.
Okay. I got one. I got one for you, Sean. Name me one film that is deeply loved and cherished by many. That's not a sort of a mainstream type of film. That's like kind of an art, just considered like in the canon, that you really love, like an Annie Hall or
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy. You love Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird, artsy.
Why do you love Midnight Cowboy?
Because it had an excellent balance of a lot of things. There was co-stars, which I really liked too. There was not a lot of those films. It was a lot of those two throughout. It was a deep history, and you found out in Joe Buck's character all his weird stuff. But they did it in such like an artsy fartsy way. It really was a whole balance because the narrative was so dire and it's so sad in the end. But if you have that artsy fartsy stuff, those montages that they had, it balances out and it makes it more tolerable, like it's life, like you're living
Sean,
life.
I have homework. I have a homework assignment for you. I want you to write me a screenplay
What?
about two down and out hobos. No,
Are they
just
friends?
do your version of Midnight Cowboy. I mean, because that's what it is. It's a story about two sad down and out hobos who, are trying to live in some fantasy still, and then reality comes crashing down on them.
I actually
And
thought
make
of
me cry. Make me cry.
I thought of a sequel to Midnight Cowboy. I thought of a sequel
What
where
happens?
Ratso Rizzo.
They end up as gigolos down in Miami Beach.
Yes, they both work for a hotel, and Joe
It's
Buck works on the ground, outside, and Ratso Rizzo is more like a hotel manager
so
type,
wait,
and they
Ratso Rizzo doesn't die in your
I was gonna
sequel,
say, doesn't he
yes,
die?
or is it like Weekend at Bernie's with
That's what
Ratso Rizzo?
happened in the
no,
montage in
Judy,
his
Judy.
imagination, bro. You're just that was already in the movie. Don't you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Oh, so you're
They
just
get
saying
down
make
to
that
Florida.
movie. You're
Yeah,
saying
that little fantasy sequence in Midnight Cowboy, that would be the sequel. But Joe Buck's alive, and they have gambling rings. They have like a dating service. I see Ratso Rizzo with old ladies. I think, and then Joe Buck's the hunk, and he works on the grounds and security and stuff.
Oh wait, bring up Evan. Evan has too much good stuff that he's putting through back channel. Bring Evan up.
Evan's coming up.
See, this is exactly what they.
I'm inviting Evan,
This is
but
the genius of Rubber, Judy, because Rubber makes people talk about other movies. It was made for this
Great.
podcast,
Great.
specifically this first one on this platform. Hell,
Oh, hello, hi.
Now, Evan, tell us
Evan.
about your mom's favorite movie.
Okay. My mom's favorite movie is Saintly Switch. It was a wonderful world of Disney movie on ABC. It was like, I think, early 2000s, starring David Allen Greer and Vivica A. Fox. And what happened is David Allen Greer is like a New Orleans Saint football player. Vivica A. Fox was a housewife, and their bodies switch, like, um, yeah, yeah.
And,
So that's it. That's the movie. And it
and
was
it's directed by Peter Bogdanovich, right?
Sorry, I buried the lead. My bad.
But you always
So
bury
Peter
the lead, dude. Didn't you
Bogdanovich,
see broadcast news? You always bury the lead.
but yes,
My
Peter
God, it
Bogdanovich.
was directed by Peter Bogdanovich. And let me just say, Evan, David
Yes,
Allen Greer can do anything. He is
yes, I
Yes.
agree.
underused. He could
He's a
really do anything. They really got to cast him in a good role, like one of these days.
yes,
David
Because
he's a
he's
Allen
really
boss.
Greer
good.
was the first choice to play George on Seinfeld.
It was
He was the
David Allen
first.
Greer?
I believe it was David Allen Greer was the first choice.
Wow. I would have loved to have seen that, actually.
That man
But
is so
yeah, just look up
underappreciated.
a Sneaky Switch, 1999, directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
Yes,
Right there.
David Allen Greer, another piece of trivia, was fired from Saturday Night Live because he wasn't being allowed to do any characters.
Yeah, he was just
And
playing the black guy, I think.
and he was just playing the black guy. So they wanted him to play a cop in a Mr. Monopoly sketch with Lovitz. And he decided his parents were watching, his whole family was watching, and screw it, I'm going to do him as a gay cop. The
Oh,
night.
wait, that's
oh,
Damon Wayne. That's
Seth,
Damon Wayne.
Seth,
Oh, that's Damon Wayne. Sorry.
was
Sorry.
Lance. I was gonna say, so you confused the black.
What? Everybody on In Living Color looks the same to you?
No, Jim Carrey doesn't look like everybody else, but everybody else does.
Or Jamie Foxx. He was in the later seasons. Jamie Foxx's boxing character on In Living Color is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Honestly, that was funny.
When he played Wanda, I guess the ugly masseuse on In Living
Yeah,
Color. That
Wanda.
was pretty.
Wanda is a Geraldine ripoff, but I don't care. Flip Wilson's Geraldine
I
ripoff,
got
but
I
it's
got it.
okay.
We have to take a detour now with this Wanda thing. I just want.
Geraldine ripoff, right?
What about Shanae?
Oh, Shanae. Oh my
What
God.
about that Homie the Clown? Homie don't play that, and then
Homie,
he
don't
hits
play
something in
that.
the head.
But
That
the
was big at summer camp. What that
what
was.
about Jim Carrey and Vera DeMilo?
And
Oh
Fire Marshal
yes,
Bill.
yes. So she was like, "Come, let's pump you up. Let's
Yeah,
Yeah,
get
on
a
steroids and shit.
character."
It was
he
like
was
some
wearing.
trans shit like before.
Yeah, but
I
he was
think
wearing like a.
I think the original trans shit before anyone's time was Bugs Bunny.
Oh yes, dressing up like.
Well, you know where that comes from? The Bugs Bunny stuff comes from what's his name? The guy who
Robert Crumb?
no, no, it's like goes back to George Burns
From the
and
Silent
Gracie Allen, and what they had a friend who would cross dress. Who was the guy who worked with Rochester, and he was always like playing really cheap. Jack Benny used to
Jack
cross
Benny.
dress.
Really?
But Jack
Oh
Benny was the
yes,
crossbreed?
Jack Benny did used to cross dress, and you want to know something interesting about that? Now that you mention it, fucking Mel Blanc, who's the voice of practically all the Looney Tunes, was a regular on Jack Benny's
Yeah, that's where he
show.
got his start. He was a radio
Yes,
guy on Jack Benny.
yes, yes, exactly. And so now it makes sense that they're making fun of.
And Milton Berle, right? He used to dress like a woman all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah. But I think what Milton Berle was doing was different. I think Milton Berle was saying, "I'm so masculine that I can dress like an I can dress like the
Well, he
ugliest woman in
did.
the world." And you know
Milton
that.
Berle wore a lot of costumes. He did a lot of costume stuff.
Ah, well,
A
I
whole-
guess also Milton Berle had like a really large penis. I heard.
That's what I was avoiding
He
saying. I
did.
wanted
I
someone
hope
else
that's
to
true.
tell that story.
I'll tell
we
you.
did have one.
Has anybody ever seen the Milton Berle RuPaul MTV Movie Awards
Oh,
clip?
I
They
saw.
presented together.
I think I did see that
Yo,
years
look that up,
ago.
watch it again. It's hysterical because they were being serious. RuPaul was not having it with Milton Berle, and and I don't know. Is RuPaul a she or a he now?
I think he's still a he.
He's still a he, and
Yeah.
he gave Milton the fucking verbal slaps in the face.
Oh
I watched that
yeah.
shit again. Yeah,
Yeah, Milton
watch it
Berle.
again
Milton Berle didn't have a great sense of humor with other people, evidently.
because he was
Um,
all that. I mean, he did have the biggest show on TV for a while, but it went to his head, I guess.
I just think that Milton Berle just thought that only Jews were funny, like himself.
Well, he was of a certain generation and a certain time.
I mean, Milton Berle had a big fight with Richard Pryor on the Dick Cavett show, I think.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yes.
Milton Berle was in the middle of a deep story, and Richard Pryor laughed at him, and they had a little
oh yeah, it was about it.
verbal.
He says, and she had to get an abortion. And Richard Pryor
And
cracked up.
Richard Pryor laughed, knowing Richard Pryor grew up in a brothel. His mother was a prostitute, and his father was one of her Johns. So, just like those two worlds coming together. In fact, I'm going to put that clip in the description of this video and the RuPaul thing, so we could all see it. And I'll try to find some rubber stuff. Click and subscribe.
Oh yeah, remember everybody to click and subscribe because it really helps the algorithm.
Wait, can people
And,
click and subscribe to this?
You could invite people.
You can but not on like we're recording this, right, Abram? And then
Yeah,
we're
we're recording.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they click it when they listen to it. If they
I know
get to
it's going
this
to be
point,
on
if they
YouTube,
get to this
yes.
point,
Yes,
so
exactly.
there's a story that there's a story I'm going to tell, a Milton Berle story.
Wait, hold on. Mod me, and I will post the clip.
Done.
Okay, so the story about Milton Berle was a guy said, "Pull it out. I'm bigger than you." And Milton Berle's like, I'm a gentleman. I don't really want to do that. And he was with Harpo Marx. And finally Harpo said, "Oh, Milton, just pull out enough so the guy knows that he's beat." So that's this.
That's pretty good.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've heard that story before.
Yeah.
I keep going.
Yeah, but this movie did kind of piss me off more than I suspected.
Rubber pissed you off more than you
like,
expected.
I just don't like film student stuff. Is all.
Yeah, I
Because this is one of those
understand.
movies you could write an essay about somehow. I'll tell you this: watching Rubber, it made me feel grateful for the Hollywood system. Honestly, I'm watching Rubber, and I'm like, I'm so glad there's.
You're so glad that
Hollywood
there's a
that makes those
barrier, like
movies.
that there's a barrier to entry, you mean?
Well, no, I'm just glad that not every movie is like Rubber. And, expressing yourself and all this other stuff. Because at the end of Rubber, it kind of just gets you mad and frustrated. And I guess it causes you to think. Maybe that's cool or not cool or whatever else. But
Yeah, it just totally confused me.
because the world didn't make any sense. They changed the world gradually by offering rules and then breaking the rules. Because remember when everybody was hungry and the little kid went off, one of the spectators, and he comes back, he's like, and he goes to the two girls, "I found a dead rabbit," and the girls scream, and then one of those large guys, they say, "Hey, it's fake," as in the kid got the dead rabbit prop that was in the movie, and it's in the movie again. And I saw that, and I'm like, oh,
I love that.
it
I love
just,
that.
I guess.
And then the way they rip apart the turkey like Night of the Living Dead is awesome.
Well, yeah, it's very trope because they had that because this movie it's a lot of different genres, which is kind of cool. It had a lot of tropes. It had like the abusive father trope. It had the contagion trope because when everybody got sick, and it had that zombie trope when everybody acted like zombies and it was filmed like it was a zombie movie. and like the violence and stuff, but with all that deep comedy stuff, because some of these jokes, they're so funny you forget to laugh.
What do you mean?
Like
So
it's
funny
like
you forget to laugh.
it's comedy that you don't laugh at. It's like deep French comedy.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I laughed out loud at some of it. I think
Did
one of my
you? Okay.
favorites. One of my favorites was when the accountant guy who poisoned the people. And I'm still wondering who called him to, I guess, tell him it was time to poison the turkey.
Exactly. And he called that person master.
Yes, but my favorite part, for some reason, that stood out that I actually audibly laughed, thinking, I don't know why I think that's funny, but when he talks about getting stuck by his abusive father with his brother, and his brother fell in the crack. And then he goes, and my brother's screaming for help, so I took a rock and I smashed his face in, and I got him to stop screaming. And I just laughed. I was like, that's so disturbing.
Judy!
The way he just told that story and the way he acted it, I was like, it's funny and it's disturbing me that that's funny. But it was like just his comedic pause of like, he stopped screaming. I was like, oh my God, this guy is no wonder he poisoned the turkey. This guy's
Okay,
nuts.
wait. So this is we're talking about the account guy who
The guy
goes
with the
to
briefcase.
yeah.
Button.
This is the guy who travels to the last remaining audience member to try to feed him some shit
Yes.
and poison him, right?
And
Okay.
he's telling the story as he's eating.
Yeah. So
I guess
can
knows is
somebody
poison.
please explain to me why he's eating the poisonous food that he was intending to feed to the other guy?
Got bored.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like that was the point where I was like, nothing that happens in this movie matters at all. It's just all a bunch of fucking nonsense.
To me, that's what I call Fellini in my own mind.
Yeah. Well, I kind of
That's
Yeah,
agree.
these are
but
Fellini
okay,
things.
no. But let's be fair to Fellini. This movie, on some level, set a tone of like, this is what we're about, and we're gonna show you what like we're gonna show you some crazy shit or whatever. Fellini's movie follows a pattern of absurdity from beginning to end. It's one thing like you can't do a complete absurdist film that's also somewhat logical. Like it doesn't make sense. Like I don't know.
I
It's
see what
like
you're
this.
saying.
No, like when you make a movie and you're like, this movie is going to be like this, but it's also going to be like this, and these two things are completely incompatible with each other.
I know it's like Eugene Ionesco. He's a playwright. He does stuff like that.
Yeah, to me, it's just like I think a lot of times, like from a storytelling standpoint, people think that they're being edgy, but that's just being lazy. Like I love because what's my favorite genre? It's one of the hardest genres to do. Is like a Kafka-esque, a truly entertaining, poignant, Kafka-esque story that says a lot about life. Those are very hard to do. You watch a movie like, or you watch a movie like Orson Welles' The Trial, which is an adaptation of the book, and it's a deeply disturbing and hilarious film. And but there's a certain like you have to have a certain consistency if you're doing like Kafka-esque style narrative, and that was actually an adaptation of a Kafka novel. But Kafka's hilarious and disturbing and poignant and all those things all at the same time and surreal. You can do that and be like consistent, but like I don't even know at the end of the day what this movie, if this movie is even trying to say something or if it's just trying to have some fun.
Yeah.
And if it's just trying to have some fun,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I always think back to this art class I took in college, and the truth is that I had to take photos of something and I messed up the camera setting. So it didn't turn out how I wanted. But I got the best feedback because people put so much meaning into what I threw up on this poster board. And I was like, wow, these people came up with such brilliant concepts that just had to do with I picked the wrong setting on my camera and I just went with it. And so sometimes I think like, oh wow, you could just do that. You could just throw something up and people, human beings will naturally try to have it because we're so wired to like make it make sense that like we yearn to just like, and I felt myself in the movie trying to do that, like, oh, I think I see what's happening now, and then it would just change. And I sort of feel like that is the point of it, is that they're just like good filmmakers because it looks good, it sounds good, it has good actors in it, just like
Yeah, it's
It has a great song in it too.
very
Great.
intriguing. No, but the movie keeps up the intrigue into finding the meaning of the movie. But I see something like this as in there's so many signifiers that change significance throughout the movie that you could make this movie into anything. You could take the French Revolution to this movie, or the 2008 financial crisis, and apply it to this movie. Any series of events, you could apply it to this movie by focusing on some aspects and
Okay,
ignoring others.
Sean, how does this movie? What is this movie trying to tell us about creation?
About creation, okay, the tire is a circle, so it never ends and never begins. It gets sprung on life, how God bestowed life upon the earth. And then
I love it because that's
as
also incoherent, because you're talking about the no beginning and no end, but you're also talking about the beginning and God creating.
I can I take a shot at this
God is
same question,
forever
Abram?
and
Let's all
ever.
Yeah,
take a
come on,
chance
Seth,
at
give
it.
me, give me, give me,
God
give me, give me.
is
Okay,
forever.
okay. The tire is a part of a car, right? There were four tires, right? But it's exiled from the car. The car is destroyed, right? So it's like exiled from Eden, right? And it's just like Cain. It's just like wandering around trying to you know, survive and like that's my thing. Like Eden was the car, and there were four, right? There was Adam,
yep.
Eve, Cain, and Abel. But then it all falls apart.
Buddy, you can't. Are you mixing Old and New Testament, bro?
I didn't mention the New Testament at
No,
all,
this is
Sean. No
all
one has
old.
Oh,
mentioned. No
but
one has
Jesus.
mentioned.
We talked about Jesus. That's New
I didn't
Jesus
Testament.
might
mention
be in the tricycle.
the tricycle. Is the
Yeah,
tricycle?
the tricycle is
Okay,
Jesus. That's
is
that's baby
It's the
Jesus.
Monday after Easter, I guess.
because original sin, right? Original sin is
God.
Adam and Eve, and then the tricycle is the Trinity, which
Well, no,
redeems.
no. It's not Adam and Eve. It's Eve. It's Eve. Adam was just fine. I'm glad Judy laughed. It was a
Yeah.
joke. Thank you, Judy, for
I,
laughing.
I'm sorry. I will be the one that laughs at all the disturbing elements.
I just enjoy being petty about grandiose things. It's just, I don't know. It was Eve.
Oh, we lost
This movie.
Danicus and Evan.
Yeah, I didn't even notice when he left. And Evan.
I
Okay.
wanted to tell someone to
When
take a
we're at
screenshot so
about
we
the
could post
hour.
it.
Screenshot of what?
A screenshot of this when they were all here so we could show who was in the room.
Oh, that's no problem. I'm screen recording this right
Oh,
now,
okay.
and and when we're done with this, and if we want to keep talking or whatever, we can do that. But I can just take a screenshot from any point in time in the recording.
But yeah, because people put instas of the who was in the room.
Try to get that
Yeah.
Louis Hall and Milton Berle thing in there, too.
Well, it's right here, right now on top.
Yeah, it's right here,
Yeah,
right
No,
now.
I
but
see it.
like in the screenshot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because all of us when there was with Danicus and Evan were here, that was up too. So that would be the moment to
There
do
was
that.
also another woman here for a brief time
For
too.
yeah. She was here for a brief.
Yeah.
And there were a
Okay.
couple of people who are not connected to any of us in here.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's the next film?
I have the next film.
And Seth, what are you going to bless us with?
Well, I thought and thought and thought about this, and I thought, well, we already kind of breached this subject in the void, and then Abram and I talked about it, and then Dean Stockwell died. So we'll be doing the 1970s version of H.P. Lovecraft's The Dunwich Horror, starring as Wilbert Whatley, the aforementioned actor who just passed. And it is the Dunwich Horror, which is in the book, is set, of course, in the 30s, but this is set in the late 60s, early 70s, because the film was made in 1969 with the hippies, and it was released in 1970. So it's the Dunwich Horror, and it stars Ed Begley Jr. Who else is in it?
Wait, not Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley Jr., not Ed Begley.
Ed Begley.
No, I think it's Ed Begley Jr. Hold on, let me check.
Okay, 1970.
Unless he was a
1970.
kid.
Supernatural
1970s, the
horror.
Dunwich Horror, not the 2000 or 2010 Dunwich Horror, 2009 Dunwich Horror, but the one that
1970.
has a 5.4 rating on IMDb and I think a 17% rating on Rotten Tomatoes total. That Dunwich Horror.
I'm sensing a theme here.
It's available on. It's available. Well, we're gonna explain H.P. Lovecraft and talk more.
No. I'm sensing a theme in this entire enterprise. Like, it seems like the overwhelming majority of films that we've selected have an element of horror in them, at
And
the very
70s,
least.
yeah. Well, the horror films tend to be, if they don't find their audience, tend to be the most obscure films. I think.
Fair enough.
The
I
70s was just a great decade for horror films too. I really enjoy them, even the bad ones. I don't know why. There's just like a certain tone to them.
No, I like the charm where it's like they're all friends. None of them are getting paid for this, and then you're watching the movie that they made.
It is Ed Begley Sr. I'm sorry. Dr. Henry Armitage Ed Begley, an expert in the occult, goes to the old Watley Manor in Dunwich looking for Nancy Wagner, played by Sandra Dee, a student who went missing the previous night. He and Elizabeth, a friend and classmate of Nancy's, are turned away by Wilbur Whatley, Dean Stockwell, and the family's insidious heir, who has plans for the young girl. But Armitage won't be deterred. Through conversations with locals, he soon unearths the Whatley's dark secret, as well as a great evil.
Is this the Roger Corman one?
It is, is it Roger Corman? I don't know if it is Roger Corman. The box office was $1 million. The director was Daniel Haller. Who produced this?
This is Ed Begley, Sandra Dee.
Oh, Sam Jaffe's in it. One of my favorite actors.
It got slaughtered on Rotten Tomatoes.
I know. It got slaughtered on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I do like Gene Stockwell. He was a child actor.
Yeah, he was.
He was in Gentleman's Agreement in 1947, and then he was in A Long Day's Journey into Night. He was one of the brothers.
Yeah, he was the younger brother with
and
who?
Dune and Quantum Leap. It's just people don't talk about Dean Stockwell enough, I don't think.
No, Dean Stockwell was a great actor, and I had a lot of ideas, but then he died, and this movie was made. It was kind of rushed to be made because of the popularity of Rosemary's Baby, and originally Peter Fonda was cast in the role of Wilbur Whatley, but he backed out, and it was replaced by Dean Stockwell.
Wait, Abram.
Yeah.
There's a movie called The Double from 2013 that's Kafka-esque.
Okay.
So I don't know if you. I'm just
Never heard of
mentioning it. If you like that stuff, you're gonna love The Double.
I think eventually we should do Orson Welles' The Trial, because it's such a gorgeous, beautiful, amazing movie.
And it's also a movie
weird.
that was made the way he didn't want it to be made.
And he
didn't have the budget to do the sets.
And it also kind of flopped. To me, that might be like my favorite obscure film of all time.
And it's also got what's his name in it? From
Anthony Perkins.
It's got Anthony Perkins, yeah, as the lead.
That's some gorgeous, gorgeous set design.
Yeah, but if they had done the sets they wanted to, it would have looked like the drawings at the beginning, but they couldn't afford to do those sets. It is executively produced by Roger Corman,
Is that New
the
World?
the
Is that New World
Dunwich
Pictures?
horror.
You see New World Pictures there? I'll look it up. Never mind. But Seth, thank you. That I think I'm looking forward to this. Is Vincent Price in it?
Vincent Price is not in it. If he had been in it, he would have been playing the Ed Begley role.
Oh, okay. No, this is
But
cool. No, man, I'm excited. I'm excited.
All right, so tell us the title again and where we can find it if you know.
it's on Amazon. It's called The Dunwich Horror. If you want, we could also watch the later, I think it's a 2013 version of The Dunwich Horror. And I think it's also worthwhile to read the short story, which is an easy read, The Dunwich Horror, so you can see how corrupted this version is from the original, which was set in the 30s. But in the 70s, everybody did that with films.
Well,
They
also,
liked to go to films that were different from the book.
H.P. Lovecraft's short story is like 7 pages, or 10, or maybe this
The
is like a
the,
15.
the Dunwich Horror is like maybe 20 pages at
But
most.
still, it's 20 pages. Of course, it's like a James Bond movie because those stories were like 20 pages. It's just easy to adapt, I guess, right? They probably made it. Yeah.
Well, James Bond books are probably like 80 to 120 pages, probably. The James Bond books. Sherlock Holmes stories are like 8 to 20 pages, probably. But yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't capture the language of H.P. Lovecraft, who got paid to write, a penny a word,
Yeah.
and it definitely has things like free love in it, and hippies, and things that also would have disgusted H.P. Lovecraft. But we can all talk about that next time when we figure out when we are doing it, and then we can put up the announcement that we're going to do it on the calendar. So more
Yeah, we
people.
can promote this. Yeah, and we can put it up on the calendar and start promoting it in advance on Clubhouse and elsewhere.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
then Abram goes, and then I go again.
And then I'll go again and pick another movie that Sean hates.
And round and round and round we go.
Hey, I honestly, Judy, bottom of my heart, I do love movies, eat bad movies. I really do love it all. So,
We know you
It's
love
okay.
bad movies. We saw the movie you picked. The
oh
comedy.
God, no, Clooney.
Never gonna get that time back.
What time? What happens in Vegas? Oh, I'm sorry, you forgot about your problems for 90 minutes.
I
I'm
didn't forget
sorry.
about my problems as an actor. My problems were right there on the screen in front of
I
me.
know,
The
it's all right.
guys like
You want
that
to
and
laugh.
her
No,
work.
some
Lazy
people
comedic
want to laugh.
actors.
No, some people enjoy laughing. That's all. It's
You know who I
it's okay.
think the real adversaries are here? It's Sean and Seth, and at any given disagreement between Sean and Seth about a movie pick, I'm like evenly split between them. Like I agree with both of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of actor studio training between the two of us, and but from different departments. So
I
that's
think
what
me
it
and
is.
I think Judy and I have the most in common here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got the easy come, easy go attitude.
Yeah.
I do get
A lot of these movies I like and I don't like. Like there's parts that I
Yeah,
like and then
that's
there's parts that I
exact-
don't like. So I
that's-
can't evenly go I hate it or I love it, which is kind of how I walk through life.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability to watch a movie that somebody poured their blood, sweat, and tears into, no matter what happens, like I always take some pleasure in that. Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot to
Actually
learn
thinking about
from
that the other day. Yeah, I was like, we sit there and we like rag on movies, which sometimes absolutely rightfully deserve it. But at the end of the day, these people got out and made a movie. These people like got funding to make a movie. I mean, there's so many people who take it even a step back or like, oh, I could make a movie, and they've never written even a page.
And what do we say to those people?
Where's your movie?
Where's your movie?
That's why I like Ed Wood. Honestly, that's why I like Ed Wood, like the film. I almost want to watch Glenn or Glenda. Honestly,
I would watch Glenn or Glenda.
yeah,
I think that's a very timely film now,
yeah,
considering
Why?
right.
I'm
I
just
mean,
curious. I
check
don't know
it
if I've
out.
seen that.
Yeah, because it's all
it's about
trans.
cross
It's
dressing.
trans, man.
It's
See, that's the thing. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but like the people today. You didn't invent transism. Okay, it was
Yes.
always there. You're not creating a new country. That's all I'm saying.
no, but here's the thing: they are inventing a new country, Sean, because
No,
there
they're
was
not.
no.
They're just expanding. They're
Tonight,
just building a
no.
city on a piece of land. That's what they're doing.
As soon as the
There.
operation existed and the hormones existed and the therapy existed, it was a completely new way of looking at things, much like certain races used to be considered less than or animals and not
No, that's
people.
not what I mean. I mean, in Shakespeare, there was a lot of gender stuff switching.
That's gender switching and cross dressing. That's not the same as longing to be a different sex. It's not. It's different, dude. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. Yet
I
again, we have a
believe you.
scenario. We
I
have a
believe
scenario where I agree with both of you.
you.
Now, on the one hand, there was a turning point where it went from I'm going to play act the opposite sex and indulge in it for my own pleasure or kink or whatever or entertainment or humor. And then there was a moment where people said, well, what if I can go through life behaving like this is real? And I think that the impulse, even way back in Shakespeare's time, to flirt with the sort of like the maximalist type of trans thing of like, well, no, I'm going to live my life like a woman, or I'm going to, what are the implications of that? Existed back then, even if it wasn't fully fleshed out to the degree that it is in modern times.
I don't think that the Shakespearean boy actors were doing anything for like a few extra bobs after the show with
No,
guys.
but my point is, was there not a single person in in the 16th century who got off on the whole like fantasy of it all?
Someone has a fetish for something.
Let me
There
tell
That's what
is
you.
a
I'm saying.
fetish,
That's
This
all
is
I'm
but
saying.
I think that if you go to the Globe now, where they do uh, they do it traditionally, where there are no women playing those roles at Stratford at the Globe for certain shows, they do it traditionally, so you can see like a famous actor like David Tennant playing Cleopatra. Um, if you're an audience member and you're kind of like turned on by that, that's a different experience than the. I think there were far less people who were into it that way.
wait. Here's
Uh,
another example
Shakespeare's day.
of
Far
transism.
less for sure.
Yeah.
Far
Here's
less for
another
sure.
example of transism. Queen Victoria of England was a trans woman.
Yeah, that's why she
Fact.
had 20 children, because
Fact.
she was a
No,
trans
Victoria.
woman.
Victoria.
Victoria was a trans woman.
Then Elizabeth. One of them.
Elizabeth might have been a trans woman, but she wasn't.
Yeah.
Victoria, this is what I love. And she might have been Shakespeare too.
No one knows.
No one knows. And
Queen
then there was
Elizabeth.
Pope Joan. You know about Pope Joan?
Yeah.
We should
Pope
watch
See?
who?
Pope Joan. That's an obscure film. Pope Joan. Put that down on our list.
I already know what mine is. So
I have like a huge list, but then Dean Stockwell died, so we had to do the next one was Done to
no,
Charm.
I think it's cool. No, I remember seeing a still of this movie. It must have been this movie. Like Dean Stockwell has a mustache and he's
It,
praying on an altar.
yeah, it's so hippie. It's so like hippie pagan. Well, it's right after the Manson family. They made it in
Yeah.
1969, after Rosemary's Baby, but after the Manson family specifically. So
Yeah. Manson family. That was August 1669. I think.
yeah, so yeah, the 60s ended in one night, according to Tony Arkin and Allen. It's just like 9/11 in Hollywood.
I bet. No, I bet. Because it was, it was a mass murder. It was a bunch of people, and how they got murdered too. That was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and
Some little
everybody
dude.
thought they were next.
Yeah, yeah. Some little dude is on a ranch of a western set, living these chicks. Oh, Jesus! All right,
Yeah.
guys, I'm
All
gonna
right.
I'm gonna step off here.
Yeah,
All right.
same.
All right, so
All
we're
right, have a
signing
All
good night,
off.
right.
everybody. Yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
not
we're
signing
signing
off.
off.
Rock
All
and
right.
roll.
Good night.
Awesome.
Like and
Thank you,
subscribe.
Judy.
Click
Thanks.
like and
Bye.
subscribe, everyone. If you got to this point, we thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah.
Hi, Seth.